Hey guys, I am MG, and today we'll be looking at a very old film this time that is called Frankenstein, which is a 1931 American pre-code science fiction horror film that was directed by James Whale and written by Garrett Fort and Francis Edward Farragut, and is the second Universal monster film, with the first being Dracula. This film is also based on the 1918 novel by Mary Shelley and the 1927 play by Peggy Webling and John L. Balderston, both having the same names as this film. However, we're not here to talk about novels or plays. We're here to talk about this film. So let's get started right away. The most notable thing about this movie is that the monster was played by Boris Karloff, who was in my first ever viewing video voicing the Grinch in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which was released 35 flimming years after this film, which I find is epic. And speaking of Boris Karloff, he does a great job with his physical movement of a monster, where it just feels so dynamic and looks like he put in a lot of depth in his character, which makes the monster pretty iconic. But that's not the only reason why he's iconic. The other reason is that he's just such a compelling character to watch, because he isn't really a villain. He's just defending himself because people keep trying to attack him, and he doesn't know how to deal with that situation, since he can't speak, but is evidently clear on how he's feeling, which the townspeople just cannot see, and that is sad. But there is one scene that perfectly emphasizes what type of person the monster is, and that is when he plays with the little girl, Maria. Not only does this scene work because of the excellent performances by Karloff and Maria's actor, Marilyn Harris, but it makes perfectly clear that not everyone is going to hate you for who you are. There will always be at least one person who can help you out when there's trouble. And even though the monster accidentally kills Maria, it still works because not only does it explore how there's one person who will help you, but it also explores what mindset the monster has. And even though it said that his brain was a criminal brain, this movie doesn't show that the monster is a true criminal. And I love how it subverts our expectations, with where we thought the monster was going to be a murderer. And even though he does kill a couple people, he only did it because he had no choice. And I find that such an intriguing character thought, and I'm glad the writers have pulled that off, and that one scene with Maria shows that perfectly. Anyways, there are other good aspects in this film. Wow, what a surprise. But seriously, some of the other characters are just as good as the monster. Like, Henry Frankenstein is such a delight, with where he is entertaining, and I love his madness has affected his mental health and his relationship with Elizabeth. And it just seems so intelligent, since he understands both of their perspectives on the situation, and the movie spends a lot of time showing those perspectives. Plus, Colin Clive was just perfect casting. Yeah, he has a drinking problem which killed him 6 years later, rest in peace. But he never let that problem get to him, and does an astounding job into making Frankenstein understanding and crazy at the same time. I also enjoyed Baron Frankenstein. I just love how much of a grumpy old man he is, which leads to a lot of funny lines, like the stairs line, the eyes line, and a whole lot more delivered excellently by Frederick Kerr, and gives a great tone to this character that I highly appreciate, and how he cares for his son's life and health because he can realize that something is wrong, and the fact that he can realize that makes him a good father towards his mad and troubled son. The Burgermaster is epic because you know why, and Lionel Belmore puts in a lot of energy in his performance, which makes the Burgerman stand out. The makeup of a monster by Jack Pierce is really well made, all the way from the scars to the stitches, so really well done. The setting is also really interesting, with the lab bringing the horror element of the film, the wind will be an amazing setting for the climax, the town bringing more life to a film, and overall makes the film more interesting than it already was. And the cinematography has a lot of great and pleasing shots that look great even over 90 years later after this film came out. However, despite a lot of incredible aspects that this film has, it does have some problems, like some of the other characters are nothing special at all. Elizabeth was okay at first, and Mae Clarke is pretty good in her role, but then she becomes incredibly one-note, worrying about everything all the time, and it is just super repetitive and not character driving at all. She has a good relationship with Frankenstein, but on her own, it pales in comparison to their relationship. Fritz is really bland and uninteresting, and only exists to get killed off by the monster, But Dwight Frye was pretty exceptional in his role, and Fritz's death scene was shown in such a smart way, so at least he has that going with his character. Dr. Waldman is pretty forgettable, and the fact that Frankenstein was a student in university feels really underutilized, but considering how they utilized Frankenstein's connection with his fiancée and his father, I think I can forgive this issue. And Edward Van Sloan was decent enough in his acting. Victor is a completely pointless and useless character, but John Bowles was alright, and I like his brief conflict with Frankenstein after he called him crazy. Sure didn't go anywhere, but the concept of that conflict in general was kind of funny, so that's at least that. The editing felt really off here and there, like there are some cuts that looked incredibly wonky, and in some cuts, the music just stops randomly because we are going to a new scene, so that's great, isn't it? The audio mixing was done a little too loud, specifically in the wedding scene. There is just so much noise that is kind of irritating, and a little unpleasant to process through your ears. The film can be a little boring and slow sometimes, but it doesn't happen that much, so it doesn't bother me that much. Lastly, the shaky cam of this tracking shot is so distracting and disorienting. Like in the other tracking shots, sure they were shaky, but it isn't that distracting. But with this one, it just shifts my focus to the camera instead of what's happening on screen. So that's fun, isn't it? Overall, despite its flaws, this is still a really good film, and a worthwhile adaptation from a novel and the play. And I am beyond shocked on how much I talked about it compared to my other reviewing videos, which I didn't talk about nearly as much as this one. 7.5 out of 10. Goodbye everyone, and thank you for watching. Bye.